Leon had never imagined that a simple supply run would twist the threads of his life into something unrecognizable. He had been a maintenance worker on a quiet orbital station that drifted above a calm bluish planet. His days were filled with checking oxygen seals, replacing worn cables, and sipping lukewarm tea while staring at the void. Nothing extraordinary ever happened, and he had accepted that rhythm as his fate. But the day the station intercepted a wandering ceremonial drone of alien origin, everything changed. At first, it looked like a drifting relic, a harmless artifact from a culture not yet logged. Leon was the one assigned to gather it, believing it to be a simple curiosity he would deliver to the researchers. He did not know it carried destiny within its ornate shell. The drone opened the moment he touched it, flooding the small cargo bay with a gentle humming light. His visor dimmed automatically, and he lifted a hand in instinctive alarm. Symbols swirled through the air above the device. He thought they were scans. Instead, they were vows. The drone interpreted his presence as acceptance, his voice as confirmation, and the simple, confused gesture of his hand as ceremonial assent. The station alarms blared a moment later, but the drone had already recorded everything and transmitted it across the stars to a distant throne. Leon stood frozen, unsure what had happened, until the researchers rushed in shouting that he had triggered something ancient and unknown. That something interpreted him as a chosen consort of an alien queen who ruled a vast interstellar domain. Leon stared at them in disbelief, insisting it had to be a misunderstanding. The confirmation arrived less than a day later, when colossal vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel, surrounding the station with glowing shields. They were unlike anything the station staff had seen. They were sculpted like flowing sculptures of metal and glass, humming with a frequency that vibrated across the hull. A transmission came through in a calm voice, declaring that the Queen herself was on her way to meet her newly chosen partner. Leon felt his breath leave him, and not even the reassurance of his crewmates could steady him. He had not asked for any of this. He had not prepared for any of this. Yet the universe had decided he would be part of it. The station administration could only advise him to cooperate since the alien fleet was capable of unthinkable feats. When the Queen finally arrived, she came aboard with an escort of armored guards, whose armor shimmered like liquid stone. Between them walked the Queen, radiant in a gown that seemed woven from starlight. She was taller than any human and carried an aura that turned the environment around her soft and warm. Her eyes were calm and curious, not aggressive or demanding. She examined Lan as though she could see his entire life written on him. The researchers trembled. Leon simply swallowed hard and stepped forward, trying to breathe normally. The Queen lifted a hand in greeting, and the room fell silent as her voice carried softly through a translator. She thanked him for honoring the ancient ritual and stated that the vows he had spoken had sealed the bond recognized by her people. Leon shook his head, explaining that it was all an accident. She listened, but her expression did not change. The Queen explained that her culture believed in guidance through fate. They saw the drone's activation as a sign that destiny had chosen Leon to stand at her side. She did not force him, but she did ask to learn about him. She wished to understand the human behind the unexpected union. Her kindness surprised him. He had expected authority and demands, not warmth and curiosity. Leon tried to explain his ordinary life, his routine work, his humble expectations. Yet she listened as though every detail mattered. She asked about his world, his dreams, his fears. By the end of the conversation, the crew around them had relaxed. Even Leon felt something shift within. The Queen invited him to visit her flagship so he could understand her realm. Before making any decision, Leon agreed reluctantly, more out of fear of offending her than out of interest. The shuttle that carried him to her ship felt like stepping through a gateway into another existence. Walls glowed with soft patterns, corridors stretched like gentle arcs, and the air itself felt rich with purity. On the flagship, he saw beings of countless forms working together in harmony. The Queen guided him personally, explaining technologies beyond human imagination, from healing chambers that regenerated damaged tissue to engines powered by quantum harmonics. Yet what startled him most was the respect she commanded, not through fear, but through loyalty. Her people believed she carried the burden of safeguarding them. She introduced him to her advisors, her scholars, and even her young cadets who examined him with awe. As days passed, Leon found himself drawn into the rhythms of her world. The Queen always spoke to him as an equal, never pressing him to accept the bond. Instead, she let him explore. She asked him to teach her people about human resilience, adaptability, and creativity. They studied human art, music, and engineering with childlike fascination. Leon demonstrated simple tools he used on the station, and the alien engineers were impressed by how humans solved problems with limited resources. The Queen observed those demonstrations with quiet admiration. She said humans had a flame inside them that her people rarely saw, a flame that sparked change. Leon did not see greatness in himself, but she insisted he embodied the spirit she had been taught to honor. Over time, Leon grew comfortable in her presence. They shared meals prepared by her cooks, who attempted to recreate human food with alien ingredients. They spoke during quiet strolls along glowing balconies overlooking nebulae. She asked him what freedom meant to him. He asked her how she carried the weight of an empire. Slowly a bond formed, one forged not by a ritual drone, but by genuine connection. Leon found himself thinking about her when she was not nearby. He admired her strength and the calm wisdom she carried in every step. She in turn valued his honesty. She called it a rare gift. Her court began to view him not as an outsider, but as someone who brought balance to their queen. Still, Leon hesitated when she reminded him that their union was recognized among her people. He worried about his future, his place among humans, and whether he was worthy of standing beside her. She assured him that worth was not measured by power or rank. It was measured by intention. She told him that her greatest fear had always been leading alone. She said his presence brought clarity and calm to decisions she once faced in solitude. He listened quietly, feeling the weight of her words. Something inside him shifted. He realized that fate had given him a choice, not a command. If he walked away, she would accept it with grace. If he stayed, it would be because he chose to. That freedom made the decision clearer. Conflict arrived in the form of a hostile faction that challenged the Queen's authority. They sent a warning demanding she surrender her throne. Their fleet approached with aggressive signatures. Her advisors urged caution. Leon watched from beside her as she strategized with patience. Yet when the enemy forces began targeting civilian transports, something ignited in Leon. He stepped forward and demanded to speak to her generals. He reminded them that defending the innocent came before proving superiority. His boldness surprised them. The Queen listened carefully. She allowed him to coordinate a civilian evacuation plan, using human emergency modeling techniques he had learned on the station. His plan saved thousands, and the generals praised his logic. The battle that followed was fierce but controlled. The Queen refused to escalate beyond necessity. Through her leadership and Leon's tactical support, they outmaneuvered the attackers, forcing a surrender without needless destruction. When the threat ended, her people honored both her strength and Leon's courage. He did not see his actions as heroic. He saw them as moral choices. The Queen regarded him with deeper admiration. She told him that in her society, wisdom in crisis defined true partners. For the first time, Leon realized he belonged not by accident, but by merit. His heart felt lighter. The thought of leaving her now seemed impossible. When the queen invited him to the ceremonial hall, he knew what she wished to ask. The hall glowed with radiant spirals of light that symbolized unity. She stood at the center, wearing a simple cloak rather than a regal garment. She said she wished to honor his decision openly. Lian stepped toward her and felt the weight of his journey. He remembered the moment he touched the drone and how terrified he had been. Now he felt gratitude. He looked at her and understood that the universe had guided him not into a trap, but toward a life he had never dared to imagine. He spoke with clarity. He told her he wished to stand with her, not because fate pushed him, but because his heart chose her. The hall brightened as the symbols reformed above them. The queen placed her hand over his, and the vow rings appeared as glowing bands around their fingers. Her people bowed in respect, acknowledging a bond recognized through choice rather than misunderstanding. Lian felt warmth fill his chest. The queen smiled with genuine joy. She told him that their unity would strengthen both their worlds. She said humans and her people would learn from each other in ways neither had expected. He smiled back, feeling certainty like a calm tide rising within him. His life had changed forever, but he did not fear it. From that day on, Lian became more than a partner. He became a bridge between two civilizations. He worked with scholars to exchange knowledge,